Pablo Picasso, perhaps the most recognizable name in all of art. While nearly everyone knows his name, few know his story. There is no better work from Picasso that tells this story than his masterpiece, Boy Leading a Horse. This oil-on-canvas painting was created in 1905 to 1906 and is one of his lesser-known works, but it is still incredibly rich in both backstory and in its meaning. Picasso's Boy Leading a Horse is a profoundly important piece in the legacy of Pablo Picasso, as it marks a turning point in the career of modern art's greatest artist, and if it had been lost in World War II, we would no longer have Picasso's most symbolic piece of artwork. In order to understand the painting, one must first know about the life of Picasso. In 1901, one of Picasso's dearest friends, Carlos Casagemas, committed suicide. The death of his dear friend drove Picasso into a severe depression. Picasso was usually an enthusiastic socializer, but he withdrew from his friends. He began to paint in blue, somber tones. Paintings made by Picasso during his depression are classified under the Blue Period, as all his paintings depict melancholy subject matter such as prostitutes, beggars, and drunks, with themes of poverty, loneliness, and despair in dull blues. Picasso's career had been very promising before 1901, but as he moved towards more depressing subject matter, critics and the public alike turned away from his works. With a lack of affection for his works, Picasso was unable to sell many of his works, making his financial situation suffer and consequently making his depression worse. There was, however, a turning point in Picasso's life. In 1904, Picasso slipped out of the depression and began painting more pleasant themes depicted in hues of red, orange, pink, and earth tones. This new period of Picasso's artistic works is referred to as the Rose Period, and is the period in which Picasso painted Boy Leading a Horse. Boy Leading a Horse is a masterpiece that critics and viewers alike praise without attempting to explain. Many believe that either there is no meaning or that explaining it is impossible. The painting simply depicts a boy walking in front of a horse. There appears to be nothing of meaning in the picture, however, this is far from the truth. The horse pictured in the painting derives from a horse depicted in Mantegna's Parnassus. This was a common practice used in Picasso's Rose Period known as primitivism, which was the borrowing of visuals from past artists. The horse is actually not a horse at all, but rather a Pegasus. The Pegasus and the horse in Boy Leading a Horse appear nearly identical in shape and stature, and they are both positioned in the same demeanor. A peculiar element to the painting is the boy's arm. The boy's right arm is extended and his fist is clenched, which is what William Rupin referred to as the lariat gesture. This gesture means to draw attention to the closed fist, which resembles the power of the artist's hand. Upon close examination, it is clear that the boy's hand, while in position to be grabbing the horse's reins, is empty, as there are no reins. This leads many to believe that the horse is not a horse at all, but rather an avatar for Picasso's fellow Spaniard Velázquez and other great artists of the past. While this may seem far-fetched, there are many pieces of evidence. The first piece of evidence is that the boy's left arm is bent in a fashion that appears similar to that of an artist holding a palette. The second piece of evidence is that the horse's mane appears very similar to Velázquez's long hair in Las Meninas. The third and largest piece of evidence is the letter V for Velázquez, located on the horse's chest above the boy's clenched hand. So as the horse represents past great artists, the boy represents Picasso himself. Picasso expertly hides these so that to a normal viewer, it appears as a meaningless painting, when in reality it is one of Picasso's deepest and most abstract pieces. The painting is Picasso's oath to past great masters that he will lead them into a future of modern art by transforming their works and wisdom into his own style, and it is also his declaration to the world that he is the greatest modern artist and the only one able to tackle this challenge. Picasso would go on to fulfill this oath by becoming modern art's greatest artist. His legacy was solidified by his Cubism period, which is considered to be the most influential art movement of the 20th century. It revolutionized European art and inspired similar movements in music, literature, and architecture. The history of the complex Boy Leading a Horse is also rather complex. The painting was first owned by Ambroise Vollard. He was regarded as one of the most important art dealers in French contemporary art, and he also worked very closely with Picasso in the distribution and publicizing of his works. From 1934 to 1935, the painting was owned by Paul van Mendelssohn Bartholdy. In 1935, Bartholdi was forced under coercion by the Nazi regime to sell the painting. It's clear that the Nazis played the part of displacing the masterpiece because Bartholdi was a prominent German Jewish banker with assets equivalent to $5 to $10 million today. So there is little reason as to why he would sell his most prized possession. Luckily, the painting was not taken by the Nazis, but rather sold to the Jewish art gallery of the German Justin Thanhauser. In 1936, the painting was further displaced when Thanhauser sold the painting to William S. Paley, who was the chief executive of CBS. Paley retained the painting for 28 years until 1964, when he gifted the painting to the Museum of Modern Art, where it has remained to this day. Years later, in 2007, the German historian and political scientist Julius Schweppes, as speaker for the Bartholdi heirs, sued the Museum of Modern Art for The Boy Leading a Horse. Schweppes attested that the painting was sold to Thanhauser under duress by the Nazi regime. The judge presiding over the case ruled that Bartholdi was indeed forced by the Nazis to sell the painting. However, the Museum of Modern Art stated that while it took art restitution very seriously, Schweppes lacks factual evidence in the case. In turn, the Museum of Modern Art sued Schweppes, with the dispute being settled outside of court in 2009. No one is sure what type of deal was made, but the Museum of Modern Art was able to retain the painting. While the painting has not been returned to its rightful owner, it has been viewed by millions of people. Without this exposure, very few would know about The Boy Leading a Horse. Picasso's use of primitivism and symbolism make this work one of his most meaningful. The painting still hasn't received the exposure it deserves, but that is simply due to people not knowing the significance of the work. Once people understand the meaning of this masterpiece, it will not only be known as one of his best works, but it will also raise the status of Picasso to a new level of recognition which he deserves.